At the Obsidian Gallery auction, Asher had spent a fortune, recklessly acquiring the merman, Julian. That evening, Julian silently slipped into Asher's bed. Asher shot back as if jolted by electricity, scrambling nearly off the mattress. He insisted this wasn't why he'd bought him. Julian's expression was a canvas of confusion, and he asked what purpose, then, he was meant to serve. Asher's brow furrowed in deep, strained thought until he finally found an answer, his voice firm with the clarity of hindsight. He admitted he didn't know. It had been a moment of pure, unthinking fascination, an impulse purchase of the most extravagant kind. After the truce between humans and supernaturals, the warden profession had fallen into decline. Asher lived a reclusive life in a cabin deep in the Cascade Mountains, with only his former partner, Marcus, for company. Marcus had mentioned a rare material, a phoenix ember, would be up for sale at the Obsidian Gallery. He suggested it was exactly what Asher needed to maintain his deteriorating runic blade. Asher agreed instantly. His weapon, long and used in serious conflict, had grown fragile. He had tried countless other components, but nothing had the potency of a phoenix ember. Marcus, also a wielder of an enchanted blade, understood the critical importance of proper upkeep. But then Marcus delivered the blow. He had urgent business and couldn't accompany Asher. The news shattered Asher's momentary cheer. His broad smile collapsed, his heart seeming to fracture. For a man who had faced down countless horrors, who knew no fear in battle, the prospect of navigating a social gathering alone was a singular terror. He descended into a spiral of near-manic panic, grabbing Marcus's sleeve and demanding to know why. He lamented that he couldn't go down the mountain by himself, surrounded by strangers. The thought of so many people crammed into the auction hall made his chest tighten, a suffocating weight. He couldn't understand why Marcus wouldn't be there. What could possibly be more important? Marcus, his patience worn thin, gritted his teeth. He reminded Asher with sharp frustration that he was a Class A warden, the youngest ever, and that he should project some of that formidable presence. Asher's eyes welled with tears, protesting that his rank meant nothing when he was terrified of small talk. He pleaded with Marcus, reminding him he'd always been there before. But Marcus was resolute, peeling Asher off him and pushing him toward the door. He told Asher that hiding away in his workshop was unhealthy, and it was past time he re-engaged with the world. The next day, Asher lurked in an alley across from the Obsidian Gallery, a high-end, clandestine establishment tucked away in a gentrified industrial district of Seattle. He peered from behind a dumpster, gauging the flow of people entering the discreet, unmarked entrance. The gallery enforced a strict anti-magic ward, otherwise he would have simply teleported inside. He waited until the stream of arrivals dwindled to a trickle, then, seeing his chance, darted across the street and slipped inside. The interior was a stark contrast to the grimy exterior, a cavern of polished black marble and gold leaf, humming with the low murmur of moneyed voices. Asher pulled the hood of his coat lower over his face and moved like a shadow along the walls, taking a seat in the most remote corner of the upper balcony. A prime phoenix ember was exceptionally valuable. A single ounce was worth 100 gold orens. The one up for auction was rumored to weigh 5 pounds. He calculated that he'd need roughly 8,000 orens. He clutched his dimensional satchel, the repository of his entire savings. Since the truce, a warden's income had plummeted. If he bought this stone, he and Marcus would be living on homegrown potatoes and canned beans for the foreseeable future. But the image of his precious, failing blade made any sacrifice seem worthwhile, even foraging for wild mushrooms. As the lots were presented and sold, the moment for the phoenix ember finally approached. but the auctioneer announced an unscheduled addition to the catalog. At the request of the gallery's owner, he explained, a special item was being presented. He clapped his hands, and a tall cage covered in a black velvet cloth was wheeled onto the stage. A ripple of whispers went through the hall, everyone craning their necks. The auctioneer spoke with practiced mystery, telling the crowd that the deep Pacific held wonders, mermen of great beauty and song, whose tears were said to crystallize into pearls that could enhance one's power. He declared that the Obsidian Gallery had acquired just such a specimen. Most of the bidders were men, and their faces lit with a covetous gleam as they shouted for the cloth to be removed. Asher felt a knot of disgust tighten in his stomach. While the sale of non-human entities was technically legal in these circles, the raw avarice on display was sickening. Still, he could do nothing. His sole mission was the Phoenix Ember. The atmosphere grew thick with anticipation. The auctioneer raised his hands for silence. Then, with a dramatic flourish, yanked the cloth away. Inside the cage was a large glass tank, and suspended within it was a figure, human from the waist up with the tail of a fish. He was slumped forward, a cascade of long silver-white hair obscuring his face. His blue tail, iridescent even in the dim light, floated lifelessly in the water. Asher noted the flat chest. It was a male. The collective interest in the room audibly deflated. The auctioneer, sensing his lost momentum, quickly tried to salvage the sale. He assured the crowd this male was more beautiful than any siren and, grabbing a metal hook, plunged it into the water, forcing the merman's head up. A face of exhausted, ethereal beauty, eyes half closed, was revealed. 8,000 orens. A clear, steady voice cut through the murmuring from the upper balcony. The entire room fell silent, then erupted in shocked whispers. An unformed merman might fetch 500 orens on a good day. Who was this fool spending 8,000? The auctioneer, stunned, scanned the room, his eyes finally landing on the solitary, hooded figure in the corner, now standing with a hand raised. He confirmed the bid of 8,000. He asked if there were any higher offers, his words tumbling out in a rush. Hearing none, he congratulated the young gentleman and slammed his gavel down. The deal was done. A smattering of polite, confused applause echoed through the hall as all eyes turned to Asher. Under his hood, Asher stood frozen, his mind a complete blank, consumed by a single catastrophic thought. He had ruined everything. What had he just done? The auctioneer happily had the tank wheeled away, moving on to the next item. A superb, flawless Phoenix Ember. The words became a dull roar in Asher's ears. He stared at the shimmering golden stone, a profound ache in his chest. He had saved for years for this. Now all he could do was watch as it was sold to someone else. After the auction concluded, a gallery attendant guided him to the collection area. The attendant indicated the room and left him. Asher stood at the doorway hesitating. He saw other buyers collecting their purchases. The merman, whose legs had formed now that he was out of the water, had been left in a corner. People bustled past, occasionally stepping on his damp, silver hair. He wore only a ragged cloth that barely preserved his modesty. His exposed skin a roadmap of old and new bruises. He kept his head bowed, his expression unreadable. Asher was trapped by indecision, his mind screaming. He had no idea how to speak to a stranger, let alone a half-fish stranger. What was the right opening? Hello? Are you okay? Or the unbearably arrogant? That's right, it was I who just dropped a fortune on you. He wished he had brought the list of 100 social conversation starters that Marcus had made for him. The room slowly emptied until only the merman remained, waiting. Asher took several deep breaths, giving himself a silent pep talk. It was fine. He was Asher Thorne, the world's youngest Class A warden. He was the one who had paid 8,000 orens. He had every right to go and speak to his purchase. He was the master now. He could say whatever he wanted. It wasn't hard. It was just one person. He formulated a plan. Walk over, say nothing, and just lead him out. Simple. He straightened his back and strode purposefully into the room, only to be shoved from behind by another departing guest. He stumbled, falling hard to the floor with a cry of pain. His palm stung and his hood flew off. As he pushed himself up, wincing, he heard gasps from the remaining people in the room. A shocked voice identified him as Warden Thorne. He snatched his hood from the floor, but it was too late. Whispers circulated that he rarely left his mountain retreat. Someone hissed for the others to be quiet, that he had a notoriously bad temper. Another added that he killed humans and supernaturals alike, and that wardens were known to forge artifacts from the bones of their prey. The rumors grew more outlandish with each telling. Asher clenched his fists, his glare sweeping across the room. Every person he looked at flinched and fell silent. His naturally severe expression had always intimidated people. After he became a warden and earned his Class A rank, he had gone on a rampage, single-handedly taking down dozens of powerful rogue entities. His reputation for ruthless efficiency had spread far and wide. But the rumor about killing humans was a fabrication. His identity revealed, his earlier anxiety evaporated, replaced by cold irritation. In the dead silence, he walked over to the merman, who slowly lifted his head. His face was pale and drawn, his blue eyes like shimmering pools of water. He had clearly heard the whispers. Fear was plain in their depths. Asher's gaze fell to his bare, slender legs. He said, his voice coming out colder than he intended, that the merman should be able to stand. The merman nodded, confirming he could. Asher turned and curtly told him to go. He pulled his hood back on. His mind screamed at him again. What a fool. That tone of voice had surely terrified him. He had tried to sound gentle. Why did he always sound so dismissive? It was over. The merman must think a gruesome death was imminent. Asher sighed softly. He would have to explain later. The timing of his sigh was terrible. Just as the merman struggled to his feet, weak and unsteady on newly formed legs, Asher's breathy exhalation made him freeze. The merman's body went rigid, and he stammered an apology, his voice a bare whisper, promising that he could walk and would follow properly. It seemed being misunderstood was Asher's destiny. He just waved a hand and told him to keep up, then walked out. All the way back up the mountain trail, Asher searched for an opportunity to explain, but every time he started to turn, the merman would flinch back several feet, trembling like a leaf. Asher was afraid the poor creature would shake his scales off, so he gave up and walked on in silence. By the time they reached the cabin, night had fallen. Marcus was gone, a note on the table explaining he wouldn't be back until morning. There was food left warming on the wood stove. Asher lifted the pot lid to find 2 bread rolls and a pan of sautéed wild mushrooms. He set the food on the table in the main room, but as he laid out plates, he realized someone was missing. The beautiful, terrified creature he'd brought home was gone. Asher tore the small cabin apart, checking the rafters, under the table, even the large rainwater barrel. Nothing. Had he run away? His 8,000 orens. He bolted out the door and found his purchase standing obediently at the edge of the yard. The cool night wind stirred the ragged cloth he wore, revealing a silhouette of lean shoulders, a narrow waist, and long, straight legs. But his feet were red. A closer look revealed it was blood. He had no shoes. The rocky path up the mountain had torn his feet to shreds. The sight made Asher's own feet ache in sympathy. He called out, asking why he was just standing there and telling him to come inside. His voice sharp with a mixture of concern and self-reproach for not having noticed sooner. The merman looked up, his gaze falling on the workshop area of the yard, with its racks of gleaming, rune-scribed weapons and the large alchemical furnace. Tears welled in his eyes. He stammered that Warden Thorn should know he was very useful. He could wash clothes, cook, and clean. He would satisfy any request, he pleaded, just as long as he wasn't killed. Asher was baffled. The rack of weapons was a collection of his proudest creations, for display only. But how could this stranger know that? Especially given Asher's reputation as a cold-blooded killer. Asher sighed. He told the merman that he had no interest in killing him, and that wardens had a code. They only targeted malicious entities. The merman looked at him, half believing. Seeing the tear-streaked, pitiful expression, a mischievous impulse sparked in Asher. He nodded gravely, adding that a beautiful, docile creature like him, skilled in domestic arts, was the very definition of a good entity. In fact, he claimed they were a warden's favorite kind. The merman was stunned, as if he couldn't process the words. He murmured that Asher wouldn't kill him and even liked him. Asher confirmed it. Who wouldn't like such a stunning creature? He told him to wait in the main room while he found the first aid kit. Marcus was the one who kept the cabin organized, and it took Asher a long time to find the medical supplies. When he returned, the merman was standing stiffly in the middle of the room. Asher glanced from him to the perfectly good chair beside him. The chair was real. He asked with a detached coolness why he wasn't sitting. The merman mumbled that he didn't dare sit without his master's permission. Asher's heart sank. This creature had clearly been abused. A curse on all traffickers. He ordered him to sit. The merman obeyed, but perched on the very edge of the seat, his body tense. Asher sighed internally. That was a habit they would have to break over time. He summoned a basin of water with a flick of his wrist and, looking at the mangled feet, asked why he hadn't mentioned his injuries. At that, the merman slid to the floor, kneeling and bowing his head in submission. He apologized, explaining he hadn't wanted to trouble his master with such a minor wound. Asher told him that wasn't what he meant, and told him to get back in the chair and stop apologizing. The merman didn't move. Asher took a deep breath. He commanded him to sit back down. The merman moved. He sat. The cuts weren't deep and wouldn't scar. Asher murmured a simple healing charm, and points of light danced over the wounds, sealing them until the skin was smooth and unblemished. He was a master of combat magic, but he'd picked up a few restorative spells along the way. With the feet healed, he addressed the other injuries. He told him to take off the cloth. The merman's body went rigid. He asked nervously if Warden Thorn wanted him now. Seeing him clutch the rag to his chest like a maiden defending her virtue, Asher realized the misunderstanding and frantically shook his head. He explained that wasn't his intention at all. He just wanted to heal the other bruises on his body. After a long silence, the merman began to untie the cloth with a look of grim resignation. Asher stopped him, flustered, telling him to forget it and just eat first. Asher gave the merman a set of Marcus's old clothes to wear. He told him he could have his room for the night. Asher would sleep in Marcus's. Exhausted from the day's events, he collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering how he was going to explain the new addition to the household. As he drifted off, he felt someone untying the laces of his shirt. His eyes flew open. In the moonlight, he was staring into a pair of startled blue eyes. The merman, seeing him awake, sat up in a panic. The oversized shirt had slipped, revealing the smooth lines of his torso and the faint outline of long, pale legs under the blanket. He stammered that he had come to serve his master. Asher recoiled, scrambling to the far corner of the bed. He stuttered, asking what he was doing. He repeated that he hadn't bought him for that. The merman's expression was wounded, his ears turning red, but he gathered his courage and pulled the shirt down a little further. He explained indirectly that while he had not presented as a siren, he was still untouched. Asher didn't want to hear it. The gender and chastity of the creature were irrelevant. The point was, why did this merman assume he was the kind of man who thought only with his loins? Asher awkwardly shifted closer and pulled the shirt back up. He tried to explain that there had been a misunderstanding, but that he truly had not bought him for physical intimacy. The half-dressed merman tilted his head, his confusion plain. Then, for what reason had he purchased him? It was a good question. Asher frowned, searched his memory, and gave his honest answer. He didn't know. He had seen him, and his hand had gone up without a single conscious thought. By the time his brain caught up, he was the new owner. Hearing this, the merman's eyelashes fell, his pale fingers tightening. He seemed to come to a different conclusion, and asked in a small voice if his master actually needed his bones to forge artifacts. He had seen the state of Asher's runic blade. The blade in question was leaning against the headboard. Asher silently pulled the blanket over it, then turned his attention back to the unresolved issue in his bed. He decided to clear the air once and for all. He faced the merman directly and spoke with deliberate earnestness, explaining that he had bought him purely on a whim, captivated by his appearance, not for his bones. The merman processed this. He repeated Asher's words back to him as a question. His master had bought him because he liked his face? Asher figured that was close enough and nodded. He then asked the merman not to call him master. The title felt strange and unsettling. The merman asked what he should call him instead. Asher suggested he use his name Asher just as Marcus did. The merman was aghast at the idea of addressing him so informally. But if not his name, then what? Seeing Asher's confusion, the merman asked if he could call him Sir. Asher agreed. Anything was better than master. Then he asked the merman for his name. He replied that his name was Julian, and that Asher could call him whatever he wished. Asher nodded. Julian. It was a good name.